Welcome back to TMI with Teryl and Martha. We're so happy to have you back here watching us on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube and not listening to us on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you get your podcasts, please like and subscribe because that helps us in many, many ways.
Yes.
Today we're going to talk about something that I think we all have been through, from childhood to the ages that we are now, and that is the loss of a pet. So Teryl, I'm a little more pragmatic about it, even though I miss the animals that I've had.
Right.
I'm a little more pragmatic because I know that they have a shorter life expectancy, and I kind of know that.
Of course, it's going to happen.
I don't want an animal that's going to outlive me, but I love my animals.
Right.
But I've had several friends recently that have had really tragic situations happen with their pets, and it hits hard.
And it's interesting that you said you're more pragmatic. I have a slurry of people in my life who are that way, and I wish I was more pragmatic. I am a person who gives heart and soul to the animals, and I have a barn full of them. So, I have been very lucky so far in my life, at 59, that I have had minimal loss in general in my life, animals, people. And it seems at this stage of my life, I'm facing I've faced quite a bit of loss and continue to face loss. And that's just the stage of life that I'm in, right? But we're talking specifically today about our pets. And I think that it would be natural for there to be quite a range of feelings around pets. Some people see their pets as, accessories, a part of their life that they, have, and they know they have them for a little while. And it's just the joy of having them, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And then there's people like me who know that in their head, but also where my heart was concerned, I recently just lost a 16-year-old, almost 17-year-old pet. That's a long time,
That is
Martha.
a long time.
Have you had a dog that long ever?
My first dog was a Labradoodle before they called them that.
Yeah.
Her name was Gypsy. We got her when I was 3.
Wow.
And she died on my 18th birthday, which
Oh.
was maybe why I learned to be pragmatic.
I
And it's so
guess.
crazy because my dad, I was working at Rich's part-time.
Right.
My dad calls me up because he was the one that made those decisions. But this had been the dog I'd grown up with. And he
Right.
goes, it's time, and so I said, it's my birthday, Dad.
Good job. Hold
Okay,
up
can
a
you
minute.
wait a day maybe? Oh, well, it's too late. So maybe that's where I learned all of that, But she was a great dog. She hated lightning, thunder and lightning, and she always slept right on the top of the stairs, where she could see downstairs and see all the bedrooms.
She was a scaredy pants.
Yes. And then if the least bit of thunder, she was under the table in the living room shaking.
Oh,
She was
gosh.
shaking. Yeah. And I used to go under the table with her. I remember when I was small enough to do that. I would go under the table with her. So she was amazing. And we had her 15 years.
That's a long time.
And then we had Katie, which we called Katie the Wonder Dog, who was a rescue dog.
Right.
And our rule is if they can't get up on their own,
Right.
and they're not going to get better,
Right.
then it's time, and the dogs really tell you. Now, I'm a dog person. I know you cat people have cats that live forever. Okay. I've seen them. Believe me, a friend of mine had a cat named Taurus that I think was 35. No, not really, but in his 20s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
This dog
Okay.
was it was like what is it, Grisabella, the cat in the show Cats, where it's kind of like furs missing and furs missing and worn out and all that kind of stuff. So
Overloved.
That's right. And but Katie got to where she couldn't get up, and I could tell by the look in her eyes. Now I am the one in my family that has to make that decision. My husband, the tough doctor, that has seen death in humans.
Right. Over and over again, probably.
And can handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, not that he loves it or anything like that, but he understands the process.
Right.
He knows what's coming before it happens because he's seen it before.
Yes, he's used to it.
And he is the rock for everybody else when that kind of thing happens. Cannot handle when our pets are sick. Okay.
Oh,
He just can't
bless
handle when
him.
our pets are sick.
I know.
So I'm the one that has to make that decision. And I'm the one that puts the pet in the car.
Right.
And takes her to, we use Gainesville Veterinary Hospital, which is the veterinary that we've used for 35 years, ever since we've lived here. And so I remember a little old Katie, we took her, and Suzanne was 6 and wanted to go with me. And they couldn't believe when we jumped out of the car that she was with me, because they were all,
Like,
she wanted to be
she
there,
wanted
though.
to be there.
She wanted to be there.
That's not a bad thing, Martha.
No.
Like, my granddaughter has faced several pet deaths at this point. Well, a couple. And she's really got a really amazing, and the loss of my father-in-law recently. He just passed away, and she went with us to the funeral. So she just feels like he crossed the Rainbow Bridge too. And we were all like, yes, he sure did. He crossed the Rainbow Bridge. But, you know, for me, I had a dog before this one. His name was Devo. I had him for 15 years. He was blind.
You're a good dog owner.
Yes, I do take care of them.
Yeah.
He was blind. He could hear, but he couldn't walk that well, and his kidneys were starting to shut down. And my husband and I, almost 20 years ago, we're just in the middle of we're just getting ready to marry and move to a home where it had a lot of steps, and it was very dangerous. So I made the decision back then. My kids were still young, you know, and I'm running the spa, and I'm doing a million things. And so I made the decision myself to go ahead and let him go. Even though he was still eating, drinking, pooping, but he was not able to hold his pee for very long.
Yeah.
It was the right thing to do. Now, I chose at that time to let my husband take him with his stuffed animals, because I know myself. I know how hard those things are on my heart. Now, did I years later regret that decision deeply? I did, personally. I made a commitment in my heart not to do that again. Okay? The interesting thing that happened this round was I was leaving to go out of town. Bella was actually slated to be put down 2 months ago. And this was because she slipped on my hardwood floors and she tore her collateral ligament. And so now here I have a dog who's partially blind, all deaf, and now was hopping around on 3 legs. So I had scheduled through friends that I have, Lance Medical, Marie Lance. We will have her on the show. She does want to talk to you about all the alternative therapy she does at her hospital, animal hospital, and that she uses energetics products there as well, her Chinese medicine. But she's an amazing vet. And I had been taking Bella over there probably every month, every 2 months, to get her little doggy chiropractic adjustments and all of that. Now I'm over the top as far as my care for my animals. My horses get massaged. My horses get chiropractic care. My doggy sure did, right? And I think that's what helped extend her life to the point that she was almost 17. But anyway, so I had called and she said, Teryl, I took Bella in there. She's like, it's done. You know, she was doing her leg test. She's like, there's no collateral ligament there, or cruciate ligament. And so I said, okay, we're going to have to do this. But then the dog said to me, no, pretty clearly. She started walking again, using that leg. She couldn't put a lot of weight on it, but she's using it. She started running around. My husband wasn't quite ready, which also was part of the reason.
Right.
The two of us need to be on the same page. So I called the day of the selected execution date, which sounds horrible, but it was jokingly the day that she was going to be put down. And I said, okay, we can't do it. So I bought some laser therapy packages. They do like a cold laser therapy. And I started taking her for those. And man, did that dog turn into like a puppy. She's running around my farm, eating her carrots, wanting to go out, running up her ramp, getting back on my bed again. So I thought, okay, that was a good decision. Good decision. And basically, she seemed to be doing really well. The night before she had the episode that I'll tell you about, we were all laughing at her, at how much fun she was having running around outside in the yard We're all looking at her. My friend Tika and Eric and I, who anybody that knows me knows there's a Tika near me somewhere. And we were just laughing at her at how much energy she had. And that was on a Wednesday. And then, no, that was a Tuesday. So Wednesday, I think I sent you the writing that I did after she passed. But so I get real emotional and I start writing. That's how I handle my grief. But we had to get up and catch a plane at Atlanta at like 6 a.m. Like we had to be out of there by 6 a.m. So it was up early kind of morning. Tika was coming to spend the weekend. She's going to feed Bella, feed my daughter's dog. Big celebration in Colorado for my youngest daughter, Maddie, her engagement to Grant, her now fiance. So all this was getting ready to happen. And we wake up at 1:45 in the morning and she was in a full seizure. She woke me up because she was seizing. I'd never seen her have a seizure. I'd never seen a dog have a seizure. I saw my daughter have a seizure before all hell broke loose. But I just held her, until she got through it. And I looked at my husband, it took her about 30 minutes before she could walk again, which, I'd never seen anything like that before. But I looked at my husband at that point. It was almost 3 a.m. We had to be up at 4. And I said, I can't do it. I can't keep her here any longer. This is it. There's no more clear reason why to let it. So I was actually at peace with the decision. I felt really good about it. And so did he. So where we were in complete agreement. And of course, so I call Marie, I text Marie from the Delta Lounge at 6 o'clock in the morning at the airport. She's like, no problem. Give me a moment and I'll get somebody there. So that day, Thursday, somebody came out at around 2. And I just told Tika, and she's texting me going, she's happy. She's running around. She wants a carrot. I'm like, Tika, we got to do this. There's no turning back on this one. And so that was that, and I found out on the way to the Airbnb in the Uber that she had passed peacefully. So, basically I was in a situation where I was having some grief. I was sad. But I was getting ready to go see my daughter, who I hadn't seen in 6 months. My grandchildren were already there and my other 2 daughters. A lot was there. I had a big group of people there. So that was like super, it wasn't too bad. I got there, I had a lot of reasons to smile, a lot of reasons to laugh. And I sent you the picture of what I saw when I got there. So I don't know how many of you guys believe in divine intervention. God works in so many ways, right? And you should have faith of some sort. If you don't, then life is a lot harder for you. I can't imagine not having a spiritual belief or a faith. But I got out of that Uber and I walked into the Airbnb, and these people had carved out of trees these 2 massive, beautiful carvings, and they were set up near a waterfall in the front of this Airbnb. And one of those carvings was the St. Francis of Assisi with a white dove in his hand. And that is the, patron saint of animals. And I thought, okay, I just sat down for a second, took a few deep breaths and said goodbye to my pet. And I was good. I had a wonderful time. You've had also your, you've got not Great Danes, but
St. Bernards.
St. Bernards. And, I thought it probably would have been easier if I'd had a dog that maybe lived 10 years, maybe I didn't have 17 years worth of mental and heart space and habits built around the animal, right? But I mean, maybe not. A lot of people,
well, I think I had a friend that lost a dog this week, also 19 years old, and a smaller dog.
Yeah.
And she's having a really difficult time with it because the same kind of thing. But, we kind of do this with people too, that we think, someone's really sick and they have like a good day.
Right.
And you're wanting that to be the best. Okay, they're getting better, but usually they're not getting better.
It's kind of a false hope you build up in yourself. It's a false hope.
And the same thing, and I'm sure animals go through very similar things. And I know we're talking a lot about dogs, and there are lots of other pets that people have. my daughter-in-law is a horsewoman.
Yeah. Oh,
and so
I don't even want to think about that.
Yeah, she's lost a couple of horses,
Oh,
over her career.
No,
and, it's a very
know.
difficult thing. And, but the St. Bernards are interesting because they have a lot of bad things that can happen to them anyway while they're healthy. Like they get hip dysplasia. Sometimes they get bloat. And horses do that too, right?
Yeah.
And so we had this one dog, Ubi-1, who Ubi-1 that
awesome.
had bloat when he was 11 months old. And Lynn took him to the small animal hospital at the University of Georgia in the back of the truck with an IV wired up.
Of course, he did the IV.
Because he had that. Yes, he had 107 fever. So we got him over there. And the thing that's funny about dog hospitals or veterinary hospitals is that they will call you every day and tell you how the dog is and then tell you what your balance is as of that day.
Oh, yeah.
And
a lot of money in that.
Yes.
Business.
And so for a long time, we called this dog Vacation Ubi because instead of going on a vacation that year, we saved that dog. And it was because he was 11 months old.
Right.
And so he had the surgery and he was our longest living St. Bernard. He lived to be 12 and a half.
Wow.
Okay. And he actually went off in the woods and died. He was like,
he just did it. He wanted to go on his own.
Yeah. We came home from work one day and Suzanne came home from school about the same time. And the dog wasn't on the porch, and the dog was always on the porch. Right. And so we started going around and looking, and just in the brush beyond the pool, he was just laying down there and he was gone,
Yeah.
And so that was very peaceful, really, because he was ready and he just closed his eyes.
Well, that's Bella.
Yeah.
Bella, it turned out, for my friend, I don't know how many friends out there would do something like that for you. But if you have a friend out there that would sit with your animal, hold that animal, and love that animal till that animal stopped breathing, that's a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel so blessed in the midst of it all. And yeah, I'm getting emotional. But the cool thing is that what a lot of people don't realize, that I feel like I've been given the gift of understanding, is what these dogs truly give to us as human beings. Their feed to us constantly is unconditional love. They don't have the tendency to hold grudges or be mad at you or come back at you to try to punish you for something you didn't do for them. Like, these animals teach us as humans how to be better humans. Horses, the gifts they provide too, it's beyond what you could imagine in this lifetime. God designed these animals on purpose and gave us the dominion, not dominance, the dominion over these animals and over the creation. And I feel like animals, and a lot of times I feel like animals in a vibrational sense, because we're all energy. They take from us and they save us from a lot of different things that are coming our way that we know not of, right? And a lot of times you'll see a dog die early from cancer and we go, what happened to that dog? Well, maybe that dog might have taken something in a way that kept its owner safe from that cancer, right? I believe that they're being here for us and serving us, and the way they do goes beyond that sweet, pet that you get or a lick or a look. I think it's a very vibrational, spiritual relationship. And, it's somewhat ignorance is bliss in a certain point where if you don't go that deep, it doesn't hurt that much, right? Once you let yourself even imagine that that's the case, and the love that you exchange in between the animal and yourself, it begins to be like something I wrote and I sent to some of my closest friends, which I sent to you and Tara. It was about how the love for that animal grew roots into my heart. So when you allow yourself to love that deeply, a human or an animal, the loss of that person or animal hurts that deeply. but you have to be willing. What is it, that line that says, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all?
Oh, sure. And, I think that I had another dog, another St. Bernard that died young. And it was one of those things. I went off to work and came back around noon. So it'd been like 4 hours. That's all. And she didn't get up to greet me. And then I knew something was wrong then. And so I went running, and she still didn't move. And so she was gone. And Glenn was on the golf course. I called him, and he came home right away. And we don't know what happened to her. Right. She's just something happened. But I want to talk a little bit about the grieving. Right. because are you a quick replacement pet person?
No.
Or are you and also both of us are at the point.
That's a good question.
My dog that I have now, once she's gone, we're not going to get another dog because we travel a lot and it's hard. And to
Your
take
lives
care of
have changed.
Well, and to take care of a dog right is very expensive, very time consuming. Right. And we're going to do that throughout her life, but we're not going to have another dog.
Right. And that's
but in the past,
not selfish at all.
We've been quick replacement. We've been quick replacement people. And I think it's because of having St. Bernards that lived 10 or 11 years. And also my husband loves having a dog around. I'll be the one that says, maybe we should wait a little while. And then he's like, hey, did you see this puppy? And so then I know we're on the ride again.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I am all for, getting another animal, because if you can provide for something, but like you said, you have to really think about your life and where it's going. It is selfless to make the decision to not get an animal if you know your lifestyle isn't going to support the greatest care for that animal. There's nothing wrong with that. And we're in such a space in my life where I've got grandchildren now. I've got a farm full of animals. So I've got to deal with the loss of those animals at some point. But so my husband and I had that conversation, and he was like, I really feel like if we get another one, we need to rescue this next one and go find something that both of our hearts are drawn to. Maybe not get that, that full breed, expensive, perfectly designed dog that you have in mind that you want to have. Maybe go get one that needs something. Maybe a senior dog, because, once you start getting into your 60s, you start getting these little dogs that can outlive you. I already have 3 donkeys that very likely will outlive me. They can live to be 50 years old. That's crazy, but it's true. And that really tests your mortality when you get an animal is probably going to outlive you. Right. That's when you really realize, it's happening. But, with Bella, this dog was the kind of dog that if I went to the bathroom, she was sitting at my feet. If I was cooking, any little morsel that I dropped was hers automatically. Although I'm still jumpy because if it was hot, I didn't want her to get to it. And so I found myself last night, when I was cooking, if something dropped on the floor, I still had that knee-jerk jump to try to pick it up off the floor. There's going to be moments in time. I know a great friend of mine, I don't know if you know Danita, but she's a really good friend of mine. She lost I asked her, I said, how long is this going to last? I texted her last night because she lost her dog, Harpo. And I said, how long? Because 3 months, 4 months ago or more? She said, Teryl, I still come in the door and hope to see him running towards me sometimes. I was like, oh, gosh. Not a good sign.
I think it is really that decision, and rescue dogs are a whole different ball game, right?
Yeah.
So our last dog that we have now is a rescue dog, and she has been challenging.
Right.
She's always been my dog. From the minute we first saw her, she flopped on my feet. She jumped in our car with no problem.
Right.
She warmed up to Lynn, okay? But she's clearly got some issues, and we brought trainers in, and we did all this stuff because my grandkids just want to flop on her, and she's not that kind of dog.
That dog. Yeah.
She's not that dog. And it's hard to know, what, kids have to obey boundaries too around dogs and adults.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens with her.
How old is she now?
She's 6. So she's like a middle-aged dog now. She's got 4 or 5 more years. And she's a small Saint Bernard.
Yeah, I
so
noticed
she's
that.
107 pounds, which is a lot less. Our females generally were about 135, and the males were like 165. And we went down to this Saint Bernard rescue that's in Milledgeville, Georgia, that is Capital Vet, I think is what it's called. And we went to see this other dog that was a more traditional, pretty, fluffy Saint Bernard. But he was 168 pounds and he was mean.
Oh.
Okay. It was like, okay, I can't walk a 168-pound dog that doesn't really like me that much. So so then, well, you look at this one other dog. She's not as pretty as, this dog is. And she came walking out, and her name was Bandit at the time. Her name's Sissy now. But she flopped at my feet, and the lady says, well, she's picked you. And so we took her home. We have had lots of challenges with her, but now we've got her in a good routine. And she's an old person's dog. She doesn't like the squealing. So what we do is we will either board her or we have a very large pen that's like a quarter of an acre that's got a doghouse and plenty of room and all that. If it's just like a one-night stay with my grandkids, I put her in the pen and she's fine. As long as the weather's good, she's fine. Doesn't like the rain very much. And she's too dumb to get out of the rain. So that's even with the covering. I don't know what it is. She's not that smart, but she's very pretty. And so we'll see what happens with her. She's doing great now.
Well, I told you she could come to my farm.
I know. I'm going to bring her out of there for a day trip.
You do need
but
to.
But the grandkids are growing up. It is just a lot for her to have 14 people in the house when we have everybody at home.
That would be a lot for me.
Yes.
I'm just saying, 14 people.
And a large dog doesn't work. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I do think in the past, I think you got to have that conversation. Are you going to continue? Yeah. Because it is a lot of work. It's more work than a child. And for all these people that got
forever.
And if all these people that got these dogs during COVID in the cities, where they are city dogs, which means they're always on a leash, you always have to walk them. Yes. I mean, the blessing I have is I let Sissy out 2 or 3 times a day, and she runs around. She doesn't leave our yard. In fact, even if the dogs next door start barking, now there was a dog over there that used to taunt her over to the property, but that dog is not there anymore. And she is very good about coming when she's called. We had the trainer. She'll go to the edge of the property. I tell her to come. She comes right back.
That's awesome.
And there is nothing like watching her bounding towards me. I mean, she'll be up in the yard. She's running.
We have happy galoot.
We play this game called Run Sissy Run when we take her out of the pen. And she just runs until, and goes in and out. And it's good to do that. It's good she's able to do that.
Yeah.
These city dogs that all of you kids got during COVID, they'll never be able to do that. And I think that's I understand the leash and all that, but I think that it's kind of unfair.
A place to run. There's dog parks, but sometimes the dogs kind of, at the dog park, they get in trouble. But, my dog was kind of a cat dog. She was a cat dog.
She didn't like to be petted that much. That's right.
Yeah, you didn't. No, she wanted it on her timing, and she loved to play. She actually left this world with her stuffed animal that she played with. It was bigger than her, at least her size. We called him Humphrey because he was just a big galoot of a stuffed animal, and she overloved him on a regular basis. And it was still dragging him around up until the time she left. But she really didn't like the kids she'd just slink away from your touch. But when she wanted it, she would come curl up right next to you. So she was really my dog. But I mean, I got her for my youngest daughter, Madison, when she turned 10. So yeah, Bella's soon to be 17. So I really just felt so privileged, all in all, that I had her in my life for as long as I did. And she went everywhere with me. She loved to ride with her head out the window, that kind of thing. But when getting back to the grief, it's real. I mean, I walked into my house thinking I had it all managed, right? St. Francis of Assisi, all the stuff, my people. And I get home, and of course my sweet friend had made a little memorial for her, took her dog bowl with her name on it, and put roses in it, had her picture sitting there, an essential oil candle going.
Well, that's going to make you cry right there.
I know.
Okay.
And some flowers. And they had painted a large cement walkway that said, even though I'm not with you anymore, I'll always be in your heart. And it had her name there and a little rainbow and a paw. And so I could put that out in my little garden. Where
it wasn't her paw, was it?
Is. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But so I made it even through that. I hugged them, thanked them, looked at her picture, felt great. I was fine. So I'm thinking, I got this. I have compartmentalized. She's
also,
safe.
if you know it's best for them.
Yes, she needed to go. She's safe. She's good. Then I walked into the laundry room, which is the area where I fed her every night, every morning. I had her medicines there. Her little pee pad was there. And it was where I did a lot with her every morning and every night because she had Addison's disease. So she was diagnosed with that probably 6 years ago or more. So I had to give her pregnenolone every morning, and every once a month I had to give her a shot. There was a lot of caretaking.
Yes.
Davrin over at Lance doing his laser, his chiropractic. I walked into that bathroom. I'm like, I'm just going to go get something out of here. And I walk in there and I don't know what happened, but I was just bent over. All of a sudden, all this grief washed over me. This sadness, this fact that, I'm never going to see her again. I'm not going to hold her again. She's gone. She's safe, but she's gone. And it hit so hard, Martha, that I don't know if anybody else here has experienced this, but I thought I was going to throw up. It was in the gut and in my heart, and it doubled me over. And I had a gut-wrenching cry. And I'm a woman that survived almost losing her child. Nothing is worse than losing the potential of losing your child or being told that. So I really felt like Teflon. But that moment, that one little bitty moment in time, something had to happen in my body for me to re-regulate. At a cellular level, I think, because I cried and my husband came running. He didn't know what happened. He came running and he just held me, and he cried a little too. We both kind of cried a little bit because we were going to miss her. And I literally felt like I was outside my own body listening to myself cry, going, part of me was like, wow, that's a pretty guttural cry. Whoa, I didn't even know I could cry like that. And then when I stopped crying, I felt like this lightness, this fresh, I could breathe, and I was able to really get back to reality. And at that point I thought, okay, I needed to release. I needed to allow whatever welled up in me at that moment. I needed to let it go. And once I did, ever since then, am I catching myself thinking I'm supposed to let her out or feed her or, seeing her on the bed at night? I do, but it's not, I'm not sad.
You shouldn't be.
I'm not. I'm more happy that she was able to pass peacefully.
Yes.
And that I did the right thing for her. I'm glad, because a lot of people do have a hard time letting go and sometimes keep their pets, because I am friends with several vets, and they keep the pets well beyond the time that they should be here. It's more for themselves than for the pet. And so I really feel like she knows that I let her go. And she was ready to go. She laid down. She pretty much put her leg up, for them to put the IV in, and just participated.
Right.
Well,
I think too, it's funny. One time we had a stray dog that my son had. That was a black lab named Maggie. And she had wandered off. I think she was sick. We found out later she was sick, but she had wandered off. And I went down to the creek that was down the road from me, and we had, there was this couple that was in the house beyond, and she had gone and laid out on this mud berm,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to get there, and the girl goes, honey, help her with that. So he takes his shirt off and to his undershirt, and he goes into the mud and picks up Maggie and brings her into the car. And then I took her down to the vet, and I could tell that the vet was not 100% sure it was the right thing to do, but I was sure that I've known dogs well enough that I know
you
that
felt it. You knew.
I knew that that's why she wandered off like that.
Yeah.
And
you'd had a dog do that before.
Yes. And so we put her to sleep, and while I was paying the bill, which because you got to do that, paying the bill, making the decision on what you were going to do as far as disposing of the body and all that kind of stuff, he came out and he goes, "You did the right thing." He says, when she was all relaxed right after, we gave her the medicine, I felt this huge mass in her belly, and you did the right thing. I mean, it was just, it's just what it was. I just knew. I knew. Yeah.
When you know.
Yep.
And, unfortunately I had one other situation that I was coming back from 30A with my children, and we were coming through the Shipley area and there was my daughter spotted a little doggy face on the other side of the road. And she's like, "Please turn around." So we turned around, and it turned out it wasn't a puppy. She thought a puppy was over there. It turns out it was a dog that had been hit by a car.
Oh, no.
And it was, I don't know what time it was. It was probably a Saturday. But anyway, the first thing I thought is it belonged to one of these houses on this road. So we picked her up. My daughter held her, and she was awake, but she was definitely in shock. So we went house to house. Nobody knew who owned that dog, but they told me where a local vet was. So I took her to a local vet. I called their emergency line. She came in and met me just outside of Chipley, and we went in with this dog. And of course, I no real attachment to this pup. It wasn't a huge dog, but I took her in, and they said, "Okay, so here's the deal. She's got broken pelvis. It's going to take tons of rehab. It's very painful. We could fix it, but," and I looked at her and I said, "No." I said, "We need to put her down." And I named her. I gave her a name because nobody knew her name. So we named her Daisy.
So she didn't have a tag or anything?
No.
Yeah.
We named her Daisy, and they went ahead and put her down for us. And of course, my kids were crying, and I was sad, but it was the right thing to do for that dog. She wasn't left on the side of the road to die slowly, but the sweet vets ended up sending me a card that said, "Thank you so much for your kindness to this dog. We don't get to see this every day." And they had taken a footprint. They had put her foot in the ink pad and done a footprint of her and said, "Love, Daisy." And it had her little footprint there. And so I gave that card to my daughter, and that was just a primo thank you for an act of kindness that we did. So anyway, Bella wasn't really my first dog that I've had to put down, but it was the first time I've ever had 17 years of love and connection, being the main caretaker. I had Devo, but I was raising children.
That was the point I was just going to make. It's different.
It is.
It's different.
They were gone for a lot of the time that I had Bella. So Bella was my partner. And, turn the music on. I'd always ask Amazon Alexa to play My Dog is Home Alone's channel. Do you know there's a channel? You can ask Alexa to play My Dog is Home Alone station. And it's the most soothing. I mean, I play it still. I played it yesterday. And it's such a great station.
That's pretty cool.
Use that
while
station.
Amazon's ruining the world, with their internet down. That AWS was down a couple of days before we recorded this. Well, look, I hope you've enjoyed all these stories that we've told. We thought this would be a little different path because, your health is a lot of different things. It's the things number one is the things you put in your body, but also it's emotional health. It's the relationships you make. It's the things that happen. And you know what? We have to get through a lot of tough stuff, and people get through it differently. Yeah. And I think that's really important. So we appreciate you being with us today. And we are going to have you like and subscribe when you're watching on YouTube. We want you to do that. And, Teryl, it's important that what we talk about.
I think it is. And, most of all, just remember to breathe, especially if you're grieving. Use your journals, read. Listen to music that soothes your soul.
I think the Dog is Home Alone channel is going to be my best one. Yeah.
Honestly, it's the greatest thing. And my plants love it too, just FYI. They love it.
Why am I not surprised you talk to plants?
Yes, I do. And trees. I am a real tree hugger. I hug trees. Anyway, Martha and I just adore being able to have this show. We love to talk to each other, and we love to talk to you because we know overall that your wellness deserves a little oversharing.